leverage your knowledge to success.
Welcome to Aditya Talks. Today's guest represents a rare combination of law, global finance, and social responsibility. Advocate Praveen Rao, partner at Ray Legal, is a lawyer by profession and an agent of positive and social change by passion. With experience across civil, criminal, corporate litigation, writ petitions, consumer forums, arbitration, mediation, and constitutional matters in India, and over a decade of global banking and investment experience in Canada with institutes like TD Bank Financial Group and RBC Financial Group, he brings a truly global perspective to law and justice. His unique journey allows him to integrate global practices, legal excellence, and human centered conflict resolution in an increasing complex world. Today, we'll explore the legal environment, mediation, alternate dispute resolutions, and most importantly, how youth and adults can navigate life conflicts and careers with awareness and wisdom. Mr. Rao, welcome to Aditya Talks. It's a privilege to have you here. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Aditya Talks. And today we have Mr. Praveen. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, and it's an honor to have you here. And we're going to have an amazing discussion today. So, let's start off with your journey from working in Canadian financial institutions to becoming a practicing advocate in India. How did your journey play out in your words?
Well, to be honest, that was not planned as such. It's just as luck would have it. I was working in a financial institution in Canada, and then it was reaching a point in which, obviously, my parents will keep asking me if and when I want to come back and all those things. And, after living in Canada for 12 years, it becomes a very challenging task to actually even daunting enough to think about, moving back because, you have your house, you've got your workplace, you've got, your set of friends, everything is set. So coming back to India was definitely very challenging. But a decision that I didn't want to shy away from just because of the fact that it was challenging. In fact, that is probably one of the reasons as to why I went for it because I just thought that that shouldn't be the reason that I don't go for it. And I was, considered myself a little more patriotic than an average Indian. So every now and then I'll have that thing that what am I doing here in Canada, even though the life was good. But I'll keep thinking that is this all that I'm supposed to do? Is there more that I can do? Definitely with the thought of trying to make a difference in the society that I came from, I decided to move back. Not to say that it was not challenging, but it's been a great fun ride so far.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. So, your patriotism and your love for the country brought you back. But what kind of motivated your change from, global banking to legal profession? How did that transition happen?
Well, to be honest, I was very clear. Even though I was working in the service sector, from whatever I had heard from my friends and family, I knew that the work culture in India was not the same as what you see abroad. So I was a little reluctant, when I would hear my friends talk about, all that goes on in their office and how sometimes maybe there's even lack of respect from your seniors, whereas, in our work culture, we were calling our CEO by his first name. So, that's very different than what people in India were used to. So I was very clear that when I moved back to India, I didn't want to be in the service sector or be in an employment. I probably wanted to do my own work or be self-employed in some sort of a profession. So that's why not the banking sector that I got into. When I came back, we had a family business. I was trying to help my relatives set that up, expand that. And in the meantime, I was thinking as to what else I can do. And I think in the last few years after my graduation, after my graduation, I did my post-graduation MBA. And in those years, I had gotten involved in a charity organization in Canada called Asha for Education, which was started by University of California, Berkeley campus Indian students. And they used to fund projects in India to the grassroots projects, so they'll raise money and they'll support them. We were part of the Canada chapter trying to do the same thing. And that's when probably I got more involved into social sector. I worked for an agency called United Way of Toronto. Again, it's similar to Red Cross and all. So they were involved with many more NGOs working in the Greater Toronto area. So in the last few years before I came back to India, I'd gotten more interested in community work, social service, besides my profession. So when I came back to India, now coming back to your question as to why from banking to legal services, because I thought that, being a lawyer definitely gives you an edge in which you can try and help the underprivileged, the needy, and, especially do it to pro bono cases if you wanted to. So that gave me a good flexibility of trying to focus, and even though I couldn't just leave everything and just focus on community work or NGO work, but this gave me a good balance that, I could pursue a profession in which I can actually try and help out the, underprivileged sections of the society as well.
Yeah, that makes sense, and absolutely amazing reason to switch careers. And yeah, that's amazing. So, how did your years in Canada shape your thinking about systems, justice, and professionalism? Because, like the system, the legal profession here in India also differs a lot from what happens in Canada, and overall the system is very different. What kind of mindset did your mindset that you built in Canada help you in any way in India?
Definitely. In fact, there was many things now that I have to think back, because at that time I was not aware that, these are the things that I have to keep in mind if I want to go somewhere else and do something else. But now when I think back, definitely if you talk about system, I would say that the system should work, right? And that's living in Canada, you don't think about it consciously. Only when you go to a place where the systems are there, but they're not working, then you're like, why the hell is it not working, right? So systems should work. Justice should be fair. It shouldn't be that you have to strive so hard to try and get it, and also not that it's only for a select privileged class. So those things are very important. And as far as professionalism is concerned, I think that everything that you do has to be with a mindset that you're going to focus on it professionally and giving your best, as compared to, slacking in doing something and not being a 10 on 10. So that's very important. That's what I feel, unconsciously is what I learned from my experience in Canada.
All right, that's interesting. So, according to you, how do you see the current legal environment system in India evolving in the last few years?
Well, in the last few years, a lot of interesting changes have taken place for sure. Because as far as the legal landscape is concerned, what's unfortunate is that we are reluctant to change, just like any other human being. And the legal fraternity is no different. There's, the consciousness about, systems being changing, then people are not happy about it. There's a certain class who would want to oppose it, even if they are actually good for the profession, and if, let's say, not necessarily good for lawyers in general, it might be good for the society in general, right? So somewhere you have to keep your own interests aside and see what is the bigger picture, and what can help the society progress in general. So the reluctance to change is a big factor which limits our progress. But now I'll give you an example. So in what do you call it, during COVID, our courts moved to virtual courts. Now that's something which was unheard of, and probably if COVID had not taken place, this transition and that improvement in the system that we've seen would not have come in for the next probably 15 or 20 years. For the very simple reason that, we would have been very reluctant कि यार सीखेगा कौन, and, who's going to learn about the systems, and who's going to, download this app, follow these instructions, or the fact, or the very interesting reason that some lawyers would tell me is like, if I appear in a matter in a virtual court on a computer, then probably the my client is not going to give me enough fees, because he'll see, hey, you're sitting at home and taking up a matter. It's not that difficult, right? so more convenient. So they might be a little less interested in paying the actual fees that they would pay. So because of these reasons, there was reluctance to the systems, the modernization. But because COVID happened, things improved, especially in the metropolitans. They became virtual courts are there, and the speed at which the modernization and adoption of technology is taking place, that has been very impressive. And I hope that it goes into the same direction as well. So systems are changing, the legal, the justice system and the procedure in which what they follow is changing. So that's been interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Your observation is nice that change is not intrinsic in Indian systems, and there is always some external driver which is needed to, push our people off their asses and actually change and evolve.
Yes.
So, what do you believe is the biggest challenge common people face in India while accessing justice?
Well, that's no surprise to anybody. Everybody knows that the challenge in the Indian legal system, one of the biggest challenge is the fact that it's so time taking. That you start from one place and going to the other end itself will take years, if not decades, right? And in some cases, might take many decades before justice is delivered. So that becomes a big issue for one reason as to why people don't want to, approach the courts, and they would rather take like a lenient view or go bypass the system and do something else. That is definitely a big problem of the time that it takes. And along with that also comes the issue, the fact that sometimes it could be prohibitive, financially speaking. So the cost itself, like if you want to hire a decent lawyer, it would be expensive. It's not that you don't have access to reasonable lawyers, but unfortunately, the quality might not be as great, and your case will anyways get impacted by trying to save money and going with the cheaper lawyer. Not to say that, expensive lawyer will always get you the results, but definitely you won't have those shortcuts that some people will take, that saying, just give me this much money one time and I'll just do all your cases, only to realize that after 3 months, 4 months, that guy's vanished and he's not picking up your call. So that's the unfortunate part. That's the challenge that I see.
All right. So how can these challenges are very deep rooted, then we cannot exactly, there is no straightforward route to solve these problems. And there is a fundamental problem in mindset across the lawyer community as well, as you said, that they are not reliable, and a lot of families get scammed. So how does litigation often become emotionally and financially exhausting for families and businesses in this current system?
So first, I just want to make sure that the listeners of this are aware of the fact that when I say that, some people are not honest, the lawyers, it's not most of them how you see in a movie like Jolly LLB or something, that, all of them are crooks, or, they're trying to fleece you for your money. It is definitely a problem in the fraternity, but it's a limited number of people. Majority of the lawyers you'll find are professionals. They are doing a good job and they are helping the society with whatever they can. So, and your question was with regards to the importance of legal awareness in daily life, or uh,
My question was in regards to how it becomes emotionally exhaustive
ah.
and financially exhaustive as well for families and businesses to take matters up in court, and while litigation is becoming is a problem for many.
So, as I said, delay in time and the cost, these are the two reasons as to why it could be, exhausting for the families. I'll give you an example. So, let's say if a husband and wife are having an issue and they want to file for divorce. Now, just the fact that, they have to go to a point of calling off a relationship and saying that we need divorce, that itself is probably, they've gone through a lot in their relationship to reach that point. Now they're anyways fed up with this, right? And now on top of that, if you say that it's you're going to go through another 5 years, 7 years, 10 years of grueling experience. So that itself is, the solution that you're trying to achieve or the justice that you're trying to see can be very frustrating and in harassment in its own way. So that is another reason. Again, connects with the time and the delay. That's essentially what would be exhausting. And sometimes probably, the relationship between family members, if it's a property dispute or a family dispute, then it gets even worse, right? So that's the unfortunate part of it.
Yeah, and it just lengthens the time taken to, separate the two people who actually face the problem. And yeah, coming to legal awareness, which is also one of the biggest problems in India, because we are not given proper education regards to legal awareness in to the citizens. How important is it, and what legal mistakes do people commonly make? From your observation?
So you're right. I think in our society or in any society, I think it's very important to be legally aware. The more aware that you are, the more you can fight for your rights and even try and avoid an escalation of an issue. So, once you don't know what your rights are, then the other person can take you for a ride, and then eventually you might see that you're being fleeced, and then you would want to go to court and fight it. But if you're already aware, then probably that might help. So, overall, it makes like a better society if you are aware of your rights. One issue that I can say that sometimes people might make with regards to their cases and how it can negatively impact them is the fact that they try and make a shortcut. Either they think that I'll deal with it myself, not getting legal help on time. Sometimes what happens, let's say if you're a company, instead of going to a lawyer who can draft a good contract for you and protect all your rights, you might take a shortcut saying that I'm educated enough, let me just go online, let me use the AI and just get a draft of a contract, and I'm good to go. Majority of that is anyways covered. But that itself, in my opinion, is taking a shortcut and might lead to problems later, because they might not have all the grounds covered, and internet cannot what do you call it, personalize and cannot replace the knowledge of many years of knowledge from a lawyer. And also the fact that sometimes you just need, in the process of making a contract, you need to sit down with two parties and you need to negotiate. Now, you might not know that what should be your power position or the fact which are the important aspects that you need to negotiate. You might be negotiating A, not knowing that that's not going to stand the test of court when it actually lands up in court, right? Whereas B, you're willing to give up on, which is more important, right? So that's one thing, that engaging a lawyer on time, that's number one. Number two, let's say if the contract is solid, but the problem still takes place, right? You cannot avoid everything. But if the problem is there, now when you go look for a lawyer, now again you're trying to save pennies and be pound foolish, right? Because you might end up getting a lawyer who's willing to give you a lower fee quote, but in the long run, maybe he's not able to do a justified job. As I said, not to say that money is everything that when it comes to getting a good professional help, but definitely trying to make a shortcut, or somebody coming and saying, "Vakil साहब आप मुझे एक lump sum rate बता दो." Right? I always say this to my client, that when you talk about a lump sum rate, somebody is going to lose. Either you will lose as a client or I will lose as a lawyer. And eventually, most likely, the lawyer doesn't want to lose. So eventually, what's going to happen is, let's say if the a case, I estimate that it's going to be 10 dates, right? And if I'm able to finish it off in two, great. You ended up losing those 8 dates of fees. Like, you ended up paying me more because we estimated that there'll be 10 dates. On the other hand, if it takes more than 10 days, let's say it takes 20 dates, maybe after 10 dates, 12th, 15th date, the lawyer will still try and push for it, but eventually he'll say it's getting too long, and then he'll stop picking up the client's calls. And then eventually they'll go to another lawyer saying कि वकील साहब फोन नहीं उठा रहे हैं, our case is not being handled very well, and those are the situations. So that's why try and go for the best available lawyer in your budget and make sure that they have good reputation in the circle as well. So that's
Sure.
important. So don't take shortcuts like that.
Yeah, assuming that the best for yourself is always a very misconceived notion, and you should always believe in an external party which can give you a better, and obviously go for the best choice within your budget
Okay.
and trust them, and they know what they're doing, and you should go for that rather than trying to take upon the responsibility upon yourself, which is obviously
Right.
very exploitable. So what is mediation and ADR in simple terms?
So ADR stands for alternate dispute resolution. So it could be mediation, it could be conciliation, it could be arbitration. Many a times when lawyers used to make contracts, they'll add a clause for arbitration, saying that we don't want to go to litigation, we would rather go for arbitration if it does get into a conflict with regards to a particular contract. But lately, we've seen that many a times the arbitration clause actually doesn't help out people because the companies will go for arbitration and they'll still be challenging it, so it doesn't make that much of sense. One of the things that we are trying to do now is focusing more on mediation. In fact, the courts have also suggested that in many a situation, even in fact, the new laws that are coming up, commercial courts laws, they're all talking about pre-litigation mediation. So basically, what they suggest is that you sit down with the parties and go to a mediator who's a neutral party, and they will listen to both A and B. Now, they're not going to dictate what the terms of the settlement will be. They basically want to settle the matter instead of taking it to court. Now, the mediator's job is not to tell you who's right and who's wrong. Their job is to hear one out and the second one out and say, okay, fine. I think that these are the three problems, and out of these problems, these are the possible solutions. Mr. A, can you, let go of one, two, three, and so that Mr. B is happy with the solution, and Mr. B, are you willing to let go of 0.456, so that somewhere you come some, you give some, you lose some, and you try and find a middle ground, so that people don't end up going, people or companies, individuals, families don't end up going to court, which is more cumbersome. It's going to take much more time, much more money, not just for your money, but even the state's money. The amount of money that is being spent onto the legal system trying to deliver justice, that itself is very taxing on to the taxpayers as well. So
Oh,
if you have mediation, that really helps out. So
yeah.
we in our law firm, we have started a separate mediation practice as well called Resolve and Rise, and we are also trying and focusing. And in fact, one of our clients say that Gil Saab, you're one of the few lawyers who always talk about mediation before getting into court. Because usually a lawyer's bread and butter would be, going to court and fighting the case, and and then that's how you make your money. But I personally feel that don't go for money initially, right? It'll anyways come, right? But try and see if you can find value, if you can find solutions for your clients, which is saving time, saving money, and they would probably become much more happier clients of yours as compared to winning them a case 10 years or 20 years down the line, in which probably somebody might not even survive it. There's so many times that we see in matrimonial cases that somebody is going to file a domestic violence case or a divorce case, and eventually they'll say, you know what, I don't want to fight it. This is taking too long. I'm too frustrated. So instead of reaching that part, I say sit down, try and find a solution. Don't get too rigid. And mediation is a great solution to litigating parties. So that's definitely something that everybody should approach and consider.
Yeah, sure. That absolutely makes sense because balancing the scales between the parties before going to court is a very it saves a lot of resources for every party in the matter, and it's overall better in the long run because it saves a lot of time, and it saves a lot of mental energy as well for both of the parties. And yeah, that's interesting and absolutely amazing on your part to support mediation before going to court. And yeah, so what types of disputes do you think are best suited for mediation and arbitration?
So if I could categorize, there's corporate matters, that's number one. In corporate matters, you have intercompany, intra-company, whether there's a employee and employer dispute, or if it's a contract dispute between two companies, that can go into mediation. They between two companies, they many a times have contracts in which they have arbitration clause, so they can go into arbitration as well. We always now many lawyers are trying to avoid arbitration clauses because it's as lengthy, as time consuming, and money requiring, and at the end of it, they can still be challenged, right? Just like a court decree. So if that's the case, then mediation is coming out to be a better solution for the time being. With regards to what other cases, family matters, definitely. I am a big supporter of any family matter, whether it's divorce, DV, many family matters, property matters, siblings, fighting over properties. We always say that, what, try and go into mediation because not just that you'll save time, save money, but most importantly, you might end up saving a relationship, which is the most important part. So, family matters, essentially, almost all civil cases that you can think of can go into mediation. In fact, there are certain criminal cases as well. They get settled and, quashing of FIRs take place. Not to say that, they should not, but criminal matters are a little more difficult because they usually state cases becomes a little more difficult, and not every state case or settlement can lead to quashing of an FIR. But a lot of times it can work out as well. But civil cases, definitely, almost all of them. Criminal cases, maybe some of them.
Yeah, this kind of mindset shift is definitely needed. That we should ultimately focus on resolving conflicts rather than winning the cases themselves and going through that tedious process. And instead of that, reach a point which is most suitable for both of them, both of the parties. And if that can be resolved before going to taking to the court, that's absolutely amazing. So these kind mediation can transform families, businesses, and communities, which is good. So what global legal practices do you think India is missing out on and India should adopt, and from Canada especially, and what from your point of view, what kind of things are we missing out on in compared to the global system?
See, I always thought that customer service is very important, which I had experienced myself because I started off being into the customer service side in the bank and then getting eventually into the investment side. Customer service is very important, but more important than that is probably simplifying the systems. Right now, our systems are very complicated. Our paperwork is very complicated, and I think partly, our own genius people that we have in our country to try and, bypass the system and break the system. They're probably responsible for it. कि कितनी बारी आपको you need not just one ID but two or three IDs, not just one signature but 10 signatures. So I remember buying a house in Canada. Over there, I remember we had one real estate dealer, the property agent, the realtor, and we had one lawyer. Then you go to see different houses, and then eventually you would not even probably end up meeting the seller, and you will decide on a house to buy. You will tell your realtor will tell your lawyer will talk to their lawyer, their realtor, and all the paperwork is done in instant. And the keys are transferred, the money is transferred. It's a seamless process. It's very easy, right? So systems are not in place. We have too complicated a system that we have created for ourselves. But I think that's one thing that we can learn. There are very good things that we have in India, but there are certain things we're definitely lacking. So those are the places where we can improve. So simplifying the systems, sharing clear steps. I think that also becomes very difficult. I remember when I went to Canada as an international student, and while I was there, we applied for permanent residence. And being just, 20, 21-year old, you could do the entire process of applying for a permanent residence just by going to Immigration Canada website, because everything was so simple, so easy to understand. All the forms are right there. You just take out everything and do it yourself, right? So you don't really need like a immigration lawyer unless your case is complicated, right? But here in India, even something very simple and basic like getting a driving license, you would want to go into a consultant. Getting a sale deed registered, you would want to get a consultant or a tout or whatever you want to call it, who's like the middleman going. Even though we have tried to simplify the system by bringing in technology, that you would book an appointment online, you'll deposit the money into a bank, but still you will still need somebody in the middle to try and simplify the system for you. Why? Because it's so complicated. कहाँ पे अंगूठा लगना है, कहाँ पे signature होने हैं, what all documents are there. And also I think there's like a unsaid rule that you hire somebody who's going to take some money from you. Some part of that money will go into the back system to make it easy for this person to move the file quickly, as compared to you going it yourself, and then you'll say this is not there, that is not there. So that whole mentality of trying to make money under the table, that is a biggest drawback in simplifying the systems in our country. And what hurts and pains me more is that I basically, being very practical, I say that there are two types of people. One person is saying that, I don't have time. I don't want to follow the rules. I just want shortcuts. Here's my money. Get the job done for me. Even though if I don't have ABC papers with me, right? That's one. It's wrong. You're probably giving a bribe, probably getting all these things done to simplify things for you. But what's worse is when somebody who has everything, who has all the documents, who's follow the rules, who goes to a information center or a desk for help, and they'll say, अभी नहीं आना, कल आना, तब आना, एक document नहीं है. Let's say three documents are missing in that person's file. First time you go there, he's only going to talk about document number one, which is missing. Then you go there the second time, he's like, oh, document two is missing. Then you go the third time, oh, document three is missing. So you basically want to make it so difficult for an average Indian who's educated enough to get everything done fairly easily by following the instructions, but you will make the instructions so difficult that they will
Mm.
not be able to follow. And eventually, an honest person, an honest citizen, will be forced to give you money so that he can get the job done. He doesn't want to pay you, but it's just
Mm.
that you made the system like that, that he's forced to pay. That I think is worse um, in our system. So I think that must change. So,
Yeah, I agree. Force like making the process and adding friction to it intentionally so that they incentivize giving bribes to officers is something which is rampant in India, and it
right.
cannot be solved because it is not a localized problem. It is observed in many processes across India, and we cannot do it change these processes without actually implementing any nationwide change, which is something Canada has done by making the processes fairly simple and easy to understand and apply, which is something India should do. So how does globalization change the nature of law and dispute resolution?
Well, as you know, with globalization comes trade, right? So let's say if recently we talked, just today it was in the news that European Union is coming up with its own free trade agreement with India. So when that happens, many more companies are going to probably want to set up shop or invest in India, and vice versa. When another country opens up, then a lot of Indian companies are not going abroad to set up shop and do businesses abroad. So when that happens, a company, let's say in Germany or US or Canada, who wants to come to India and set up a factory or anything else like that, they will come here and they don't know the laws here. So they would want to hire a legal professional who's going to tell them what all legal documentation is required, what all licenses are required. So with globalization, you would have to have more people in these sectors to try and help these companies, do business more easily. And as we keep talking about the ease of doing business, the more the countries come up with simplified rules and laws, the more easier it will be for such professionals to try and help these companies and then probably do better business in different countries. So with globalization, I think that's one of the biggest things that is coming about.
Yeah. Can you tell me about how law students and young professionals what should they focus on right now in their early careers, and how should they get into law as a profession?
So, needless to say that, when you're studying for law, obviously focus on your classes, your concepts, the theory, all those things are very important. But at the same time, I think while you're a student of law, it's very important for you to try out different areas of law because when you study LLB, you will get a law degree, but you need to know where do you want to see yourself. Do you want to be a corporate lawyer? Do you want to be a litigation lawyer? And litigation, do you want to get into criminal law or do you want to get into the civil litigation, right? And in corporate itself, there are different areas that you might want to experience. So while you're a student, it's great to do as many internships as possible, right? So that's the key. And don't just, you go to one office, you like the office, you like the people there. Don't just stick there while you're a student, if you whether you're in a 5-year program or a 3-year program, try and go to different fields. You might think that you want to become a corporate lawyer, only to realize that it's not bad. But when you try out litigation, you get that really the kick or the high of arguing in the court. So that might be an area of interest for you. You might think that you only want to do civil law, but and you don't like criminal law. But when you go to a criminal court, you realize that it's much less paperwork or drafting as compared to civil. You might like that more. So try out different areas. This law is so wide and vast. I think
Yeah,
by mistake
yeah,
went to mute. All right. I'm not sure if you heard that part. So basically, trying to say that do as many internships as possible.
yeah.
That's
That makes sense. Getting as much as exposure they can in their early years will get them a deeper understanding of what goes on in each and every aspect of law, which is enlightening and illuminating for them, especially at that early stage, so that they can choose their time wisely and invest it in the direction that they truly believe to be, utility maximizing. And so aside from that, how do you think, what kind of mindset should people adopt when facing disputes or legal challenges in India? And what kind of, thought processes should they generally keep in mind while, approaching these kind of problems in their personal lives as well?
See, I think it's very important whether you talk about actual formal litigation or mediation or just a personal life. It's very important to be a positive person, to be an open person. Don't be too rigid. Sometimes, we get into our egos. Some people might call it self-esteem. Regardless, you have to be a little more flexible and rigid. And I think it does come with the age as well, with maturity that, you realize that a lot of these things that we keep fighting for and sort of we might think that you're investing your time and energy in the right place. However, in the long run you realize that what, it's just not worth it. Sometimes even if you have to let go of 10% to save the 90%, then you should. So being open, being positive, it's very important. Don't be too rigid in life. So otherwise, it just takes too long to realize that what, it was not worth it. So
Yeah, and that kind of mindset also, helps you out in other avenues of life and generally improves your cadence and your social your happiness as a whole. So being happy is good for you. You
Absolutely.
describe yourself as an agent of positive social change. And what does that mean in practice, and how are you able to help out the community in practice with law?
So when I came back from Canada, I started an NGO, and I was thinking about different names, and one of the names just came to my mind was Champions of Change, right? And interestingly, it was already taken, so I was just thinking about what else, and change could be positive or negative. So I thought that it's important that champions of positive change. Your actions will change something, but it should change it for the good. Should be for the positive. So that's where the whole positive change aspect comes into play. And as far as the law is concerned, I'm trying to do my bit to, try and being as honest to my clients as possible, and not just focusing on trying and getting matters or extending the dates in cases. So that's very important. I'm trying to do that, trying to, because I think that does make an impact onto the society as well. Other than the legal profession, we do a lot of things. I am part of two charities, two NGOs, where I am vice chairman in one of them, in which we try and make out different things that we're doing in the society. Whether we are setting up computer centers for the underprivileged, or we are setting up waste management in societies where there's no waste management happening, looking after the environmental aspect, doing a lot for the elderly care as well. So different things that we're trying to do, because that's very important that for the world, to a society, to be in a positive direction, especially when it comes to the environment, because every other thing is on one side, but environment, if it gets degraded to a point, probably we won't be able to live a world worth living for the next generation. So that's very important.
Yeah, that makes sense. And aside from that, you've already, touched upon lawyers and how they can contribute beyond courtrooms to society, as you've already shown through approving mediation over litigation directly. And what kind of role do you think law as a whole should play in building a more conscious society?
See, laws are very important, right? Because you need the society to run in a certain way. But laws itself is not sufficient. You need to make sure that they're implemented correctly, and they're not one-sided. And the fact that they're not just benefiting one part of a, sections of a society. So that's why it's very important that what rules and laws are made, that is what is going to shape our society. So that's why it's very important for the laws to be just, to be fair, to be accessible to people, that the implementation has the right impact with which it was planned and brought into force.
Yeah. Can you now we are gonna do something interesting. We're gonna focus and bring focus to a new round, a rapid fire round, and
Wow.
we will basically I will ask you questions in a successive manner, and you have to answer in one or two words. So it will be a
Okay.
quick kind of a round.
Okay.
It's only gonna be 10 questions, so let's get started.
Sure. Sure.
Sure? Yeah.
Yeah.
So law or justice?
Justice.
Litigation or mediation?
By now, you know my answer. Mediation.
Courtroom or conversation?
Conversation, definitely.
Rules or principles?
Principles.
Power or responsibility?
Both.
One quality every lawyer should have.
Be honest.
One quality every citizen should have.
Duty and responsibility to your society.
One book everyone should read.
I'm not an avid reader, but I remember reading a book long time back. It was The Alchemist. So I
Sure.
really like that.
One
Simple.
value the world needs more of.
Compassion.
Peace means what to you in one word?
A good night's sleep, personally speaking.
Yeah, so that concludes the round and amazing answers. Sleep is also very important to me, especially now that I'm at college and the semester is draining me. So yeah, uh, now we have another segment which is one truth, one myth. So tell me one
Okay.
truth about the legal system which people must understand.
Practical challenges. Our country, especially if I talk about India, our country is huge, and as a result, there are bound to be many more cases. Many more cases means that with the limited resources that we have and the judicial system that we have, although it can be fixed if the government were a little more proactive, with the vacancies in the judicial system. But the one thing that truth is the fact that we have a huge country with a lot of population, and we're not able to service all the cases in time. So that's the
Yeah.
truth.
Tell me one myth about law or lawyers that you want to break.
They're all dishonest.
Mm, yeah, yeah. So it's not like the cliche movies that everybody watches that all the lawyers are
Yeah,
trying to screw you over. Ultimately, majority of them are trying to support you, but there's also
majority
some
of
truth in those stereotypes. So,
yes.
Mr. Rao, please pass the mic to one thinker, lawyer, mediator, or leader that you believe society needs to hear more from your network that you believe I should bring on my show. And yeah,
There are a couple of people. I don't know which area that you want it in. If you're talking about a leader who's into sustainable development or the environment, then I know a good mentor with regards to the environmental challenges is Mr. Ashwini Khurana. He runs the Karma Lakeland. It's like a big organization in India. There's a resort that he runs. He's a real estate developer, and he does a lot of good work in the environment. So it shows that you don't always have to focus on profit over the environmental protection. If you focus on environmental protection, profits will come. There are like-minded people like that. Then there are a lot of other good people that I know. One is a great professor, young professor at Venkateshwar College. She teaches a lot of kids and brings about a positive change in the society. So that's Dr. Ritika Singh. I don't know which area you want to cover, but I can give these two suggestions for sure, or
sure.
maybe a few later.
Definitely. Thank you for your recommendations. I'll get their contacts from you, and I'll try to reach out to them. So
Sure.
let's get to the closing reflections. What kind of keeps you grounded in such a demanding profession such as law? Because, as you said, sleep is something which brings you peace. How do you keep yourself grounded and uh, in such a demanding space?
I guess my family is the biggest support system that keeps me grounded. I have a 6-year-old son. He keeps me grounded and active at the same time. So that's the
Yeah.
simple answer of it.
That's amazing. So, if people remember one message from today's conversation, would you like them to remember, uh, and what should it be?
Be positive. That's my blood group, and I am very positive.
Amazing. Any final advice for youth and families watching Aditya Talks?
I don't know. Subscribe to your channel and watch it more often.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you for the advice. And yeah, definitely subscribe, hit that like button, and share this video to as many people you want. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed it and I learned a lot today. And it was really illuminating for me. If you want to ask anything, just drop your questions down in the comments and I'll see that they get answered. Thank you, sir, for coming on. It was an amazing time.
Thank you very much. It was pleasure was all mine.
Yes. Thank you. Ciao for now.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
You too.